But today we've got two members of the local clergy. We've got the Reverend Canon Andrew Dochin, who's on the line to us now from Felixstowe. Hi to you, Andrew.
Hello, Mark. Hi, everyone. Hello, other Mark.
And other Mark's here as well, Mark B. Good morning, Mark.
Yes, good morning.
Thanks for joining us. And what are you these days in the church, Mark? Because you've chosen a career away from sort of local politics and going into church, which some would say is not that different.
Indeed, absolutely. It all needs praying for. I'm still very much in politics, still on the county council, but I was ordained back in September, and I'm now the Reverend Mark B. But I'm a deacon officially at the moment. And next year will hopefully, if the cathedral's open, be ordained priest.
Wonderful. Well, good luck with that, and I'm sure you'll make a fantastic job of it. So, Grumpy Rev's on the show today. And interestingly, actually, and we booked you about a week ago and didn't know what would be in the news today. And, of course, the big news is, what do we do at Christmas? And the government is under increasing pressure to do something about the relaxation that we've got in place at the moment, the 5 days over Christmas, and roll back on that. 57% of Brits would like to see that rolled back, a YouGov poll. It's a really difficult one. Mark, where do you think we should go on this?
It is a difficult one, isn't it? And I think, first of all, we should say it's good news that the vaccines are rolling out in Suffolk this morning. I think that's a really positive thing. But, you know, you've got 61% of England living under the toughest rules, and so many people will potentially be able to move now as they would be if the restrictions are relaxed between high risk tiers. I think people have just got to be sensible. I think they've got to avoid crowds, shops, pubs, that sort of thing. But, I mean, a family meal is hopefully, and the advice has been given, is safer than those other things. And I suppose the other thing, Mark, is how on earth would it be enforced? Are the police really going to go in and drag people away from their turkey dinners?
Well, I've spoken to them in the past, and they wouldn't do that. But I guess if there was a loud party going on and loads of people piling in and out, that might be different, I suspect. Yeah. Andrew, what do you think the government ought to do here?
It's really hard because I think Mark's right. The travelling between tiers, that's the big thing about this relaxation. Really, I can't go to London until next Wednesday, but then suddenly I can go for 5 days. It doesn't make any sense. I remember you and I had a conversation at the supermarket recently. It is on us. We've got to do it. I mean, vaccine takes time to work. You know, you get the first one, then you've got to wait 3 weeks for another one, and then you might begin to have some immunity. So basically, when the vaccine begins, that's signifying the beginning of hopefully the final lockdown. You know, we've got to grab this and say, it's up to us. Let's not run ahead with ourselves. I know it's hard. I feel particularly we've had a lot of household bubbles where been people by themselves or lone parents have been able to bubble up. But I'm feeling particularly for elderly couples who've been kind of treated that they're okay, but they're also vulnerable, and one of them's often the carer for the other, but not officially, so they don't count as a vulnerable group. And there's something about make contact over this time. But really, do you have to be face to face? Do you have to actually hold hands? You can still go outside. You can still have a half-hour chinwag on a walk, particularly if you're in a lovely place like Felixstowe. Go along the prom. That's going to be absolutely rammed over the next couple of weekends. And just be careful. Say it again. Say it loud. Hands, face, space, and open a window.
Yeah, Mark, it's really difficult for the politicians here because no one you can just see the headlines, the papers, Boris cancelled Christmas, and they'll mock him up as a Grinch or something like that. Yet an awful lot of people want that. It's difficult for the politicians to they can't please everybody, as you probably know.
Yes, well, that's right, and that's not why I've gone into the church either. But I think with Boris, he doesn't want to be the first Prime Minister since Cromwell, who's cancelled Christmas. It's not what you go into politics for. But, as Andrew was just saying, people have just got to be sensible. And you've got to weigh up your own circumstances and the vulnerabilities of your own family. Because the last thing that we'd ever want to do is to expose any of our loved ones to this danger. And, it is difficult. But if you look across to what happened in America after Thanksgiving, there was that big peak. And that's a bit of a warning for us, I think, to just exercise that caution.
Yeah, I watch US news religiously, and that has been a big issue. They're having a real tough time of it in the States at the moment. That's put down to Thanksgiving, and they're really concerned they'll have similar spikes in the new year. We've got lots of other people getting in touch today. Betsy's been in touch. She says, I have a single son who lives and works in London, and he already said he was staying in his bubble with friends with children in London and not coming home in case he brings the virus home. My son who lives with me suggested that we forget Christmas, which I'm finding very difficult. I keep seeing elderly people queuing to have their vaccinations, but haven't heard a word from my doctors, and I am of the age for one. Betsy, they will contact you. And loneliness, Andrew, is going to be an issue for people if we're not careful.
Yeah, very, very much so. And it's been a long, lonely year. It's not just this moment in time. I think one of the problems of the tier system is it reinforces the idea of them and us. We are better than them because we're in tier 2, and those in tier 1 are better than everybody else. There is no them and us. There is only us. And sadly, we only realise that when someone close to us dies, someone near to us gets infected. I mean, COVID came home to me very early when our local PCSO, John, was one of the first people to die. And that was months and months ago. And that's someone who you actually had a cup of coffee with, and you're thinking, wow. Now, we don't want it to get that far, because if we already get to the space where one of my family has been infected, the chances are, so am I. We've got to realise there is only us, and we are, it's kind of become a kind of a panegyric or whatever, but we are all in this together, and we can only get out of it together.
We're worried about what tier we're going to end up in, Mark B, as well. Tomorrow we'll get the announcement. They're talking about it today. We went into lockdown in tier 1. We came out in tier 2, and our rates here have continued to rise, particularly in Ipswich. But now this morning, every district in Suffolk has seen a considerable percentage rise in cases. People are now worried about Suffolk going into tier 3, or maybe Ipswich going into tier 3. We're hearing it could be urban areas where there's an issue, and rural areas where it's not quite so bad. We reap what we sow.
Well, we do. I mean, I was at a briefing meeting yesterday, and we were talking about this, and I think the advice is that hopefully we will stay in tier 2. And I mean that seemed harsh enough, didn't it? But clearly we've got to watch the local spikes, and it is much more of an issue in the urban areas than it is in large rural areas. And it is about ensuring that we do the sensible things as local authorities and people in their own homes. That we are very wary of. As we've got this far, and let's hope that by the spring we see this thing recede, that there is just a few months to get through. And I think, just back on the whole issue of Christmas, I also get the feeling from people, and I don't know, Andrew, if you feel this, that people really want to celebrate this Christmas. Because they really want to feel that they can see a little bit of light in the darkness of the moment. And the doorstep carols thing in Suffolk is going to really, I think, be a real good part of that.
Yeah, we're going to be outside on the church doorstep. I've told people, bring your own mulled wine, because I'm not going to share yours.
Yes.
Bring a torch, bring refreshments, and let's fill the streets with joy rather than just this place, as the prelude to the carol service tells us.
Well, look, we've got George on the line to us now from Hadley. Hi, George.
Hello.
Hi, thanks for joining us. What should we do at Christmas, George? What do you think we should do?
Well, I commented to say in inverted commas we should cancel Christmas to think of the future, to have future Christmases with our families.
Well, it's interesting you say that. That echoes what my big brother said to me. He said, I'd rather forego this Christmas so that we can hopefully have many more to come in the future. So that's pretty much what you're saying as well.
Yeah. I've got an aunt and cousins in Stowmarket, grandparents in Bilderston, and we haven't really seen them this year.
Yeah, that's really tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you'd rather wait until it's safer to do it, would you?
Yeah. I think that's what pretty much the whole country should do, just wait and have a future. Today,
the Reverend Canon Andrew Dochin and Mark B, who's also a Reverend as well, joining us on the programme. And Mark, if I can come to you, because you particularly want to have a bit of a moan about online meetings like Zoom and Teams and things like that.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Go for it, Mark.
You think, it's...
Support already from your colleague, look.
Mark, thank you for this, because this is therapy. This is online therapy in a way. So I'm talking against myself. But, you think a year ago, last Christmas, which feels like 5 years ago now, doesn't it? If I'd said to my nearest and dearest, I'm off for my Zoom meeting, I think it would have all felt very suspicious, really. And now, it's all I feel I do. I'm on Zoom, I'm on Microsoft Teams, I'm on Skype, and of course today we're on FaceTime, just to give them all their names, just to get them all in. But, they are useful. I mean, we've seen Parliament, we've seen PMQs, we see all those briefings are all done. I attend council meetings now online, sometimes 2 at once, which is fun. And I'm sure, Andrew, like me, we have our church services, and you have the Lord's Prayer, everyone echoing. It takes 10 minutes to say the Lord's Prayer, but there we are. I was licensed online. I remember sitting at home here, dressed up in my cassock and surplice, dreading the Amazon man knocking on the door at the same time. But, the most annoying thing about it of all is when you're in a meeting and somebody really passionately comes on and they stay on mute, and they stay on mute too long. And you then tell them, and they don't hear because they're really going for it. And then they realise, and then they find their microphone, and then they have to go through it all again. And it takes twice as long to do things. I think the other thing is people are calling Zoom meetings too easily. It's now far too easy just to say, we'll get together by Zoom, when quite frankly an email or a phone call would do. And the other thing I must say is, I used to be late for meetings in Ipswich, council meetings, where I went down the A12. I am still late for meetings, and I only have to go from one bit of carpet to the next. So, it is great fun. I don't know, Andrew, if you've had one of these, but I even had a Zoom Christmas card the other day. Have you seen one of these? The
level 2 youth group, our trustees meeting, wine is compulsory. But I think that's the only way we get through Zoom. So it's a party every time we have a trustees meeting. I mean, there are two things about Zoom. It goes on for too long. I had a general synod Zoom that lasted 3 days. 3 days. And then in the evening, interest groups still had fringe meetings. I'm thinking, really? Have you not got any life at all? And the problem is the kind of the people who insist on being the kind of air raid wardens of the Zoom meeting, that you always find someone who wants to shout out when you're still on mute. And they want to control the meeting in a different way. And the biggest problem, and I think you're right here, Mark, is the courtesy of organising a meeting that used to happen in real time. So you would get an invitation saying, everybody get their diaries out. Can we all meet on this date? Now you're just given the meeting, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah, and you still have to wait in a waiting room to be allowed in, don't you? And sometimes you can wait a long time.
I spent half an hour in a waiting room last Wednesday for this Wednesday's meeting.
Exactly. Let me just describe my Zoom Christmas card, which has Mary and Joseph in one window, a king in another, a shepherd, a donkey, and a camel in the other, and none of them are speaking. They all look as if they're on mute. Which does not look fun.
In fairness, hang on. Let me just put the other point of view on this, because rather than jumping in your motor car and having to drive to a meeting, you don't have to do that now. So you're saving time, you're saving the planet. Surely it's better. And going forward, people won't have to jet across the world to meet up. They can just do it virtually now.
I agree. Yeah, hybrid economy is the way forward. We need to do that. One of our members of Bishop's Council said, if it's going to take me longer to travel to a meeting than the meeting takes, I probably shouldn't be going to that meeting. And that's a good rule of thumb, or attend the meeting differently. But we can make this easier. We can just say, let's make sure we don't have too many. Let's stick to 35, 40 minutes, and then, you've got to have a break. You can't do, as I did with one recently, 4 hours straight without a break. You just lose people. I've taken to calling fellow people on a call. We're all zombies, After about the first 20 minutes, we're the Walking Dead.
Zombies.
Zombies coming zombies. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And I think, Mark, you're right. It's here to stay, clearly. And we will be Zooming now, for the rest of our lives. And, and it is a good thing. There is some good stuff there. But, Andrew is absolutely right. We've got to get the ground rules right. And I think we've got to ensure that, because I've been in council meetings only for a day, not 3 days like Synod, for a day's council meeting, but it's felt like 3 days. I think
it does.
And it is incredibly tiring.
We've seen a lot of services go online, haven't we, this year? And that's meant that people can access them who perhaps can't access them. So, for instance, I've got a really good friend, Gail. She's a reverend in New Hampshire, near Jackson in New Hampshire. And she Facebooked Live her service a few weeks ago. And I sat there on Sunday morning at home, sort of flicking through, or in the afternoon it would have been, flicking through. And there she was. And I sat there watching her doing her service in North America. And I just thought, how incredible is this?
It is making it much more accessible. That's very true. And we've had somebody join our Zoom services here in Beccles from Afghanistan. He's a chap on army duty out there. And he was able to join us every Sunday morning. And that was great for him, great for his parents to be able to see him, and for a little bit of, home for him while he was so far away. So that does show, the great link that you can have. And it doesn't matter where you are on the planet then.
So what we really need is some Zoom Teams etiquette to be produced to make sure that we're not spending too much time in front of a screen, which is not good for us. Do you feel better for getting that out there, Mark?
I do, and I think I'm really looking forward to this Zoom czar coming on, whoever that will be, to define these rules, because we can have a jolly good moan and groan about them as well then, in trying to police this. So, I feel a lot better for that.
And normally I'm talking to you guys about how many carol concerts that you get through during the course of a season. And, of course, this year it's going to be a tiny amount, won't it?
Yeah, just tonight, Mark, your doorstep carol, 6 o'clock. Tune into Radio Suffolk. We're looking forward to that. But, we're still going to have midnight at St John's,
right?
11:30. And then after that is the Great High Feast for Clergy after Christmas on Twitter, #Clergy Malt Club.
Okay.
where we all take a glass of our favourite tipple and celebrate the Nativity. Methodists are encouraged to attend. In fact, anyone can join in, really. And you don't have to be alcoholic. But if you've got a single malt, we love you more.
Okay. Now, we're going to stick with you, Andrew, because you want to have a bit of a moan about crossing the road.
Oh, okay. I mean, this is in what people think, pedestrians. It's not just pedestrians. It's drivers as well. There's a confusion always between pedestrian crossings, zebra crossings, pelican crossings, the ones with the funny yellow flashy lights in the middle of the green and the red lights. It can be a problem, but a couple of grumps that come out. Pedestrians, if you press the button for the light to change and then you jaywalk before the light changes, shame on you, because you're stopping all the traffic for no purpose at all. It irritates me no end. if you're going to jaywalk, fine, jaywalk, but actually really don't.
Can I step into your confessionals now, because I have done that. I have done that. You sort of you push it and you think, I can get across there now, and then you sort of sheepishly walk away, hoping that none of the people in the cars are looking at you, particularly me.
If we saw a teenager do it, we would complain about the youth of today, and it's really, really difficult. The other thing, zebra crossings. I think people have just forgotten what they are. It certainly seems like cars have. We need I think, to be honest, I'm really serious here, we need to get rid of Belisha beacons and put traffic lights at every single crossing. I've seen people be almost run down in the middle of a crossing because they've got halfway across and the car's coming the other way. I thought it was fine.
No, it's because we don't have Tufty anymore to tell us how to cross the road, or the Green Cross Code Man. Those things were drummed into us as children.
We can blame this on the people feeding grey squirrels. That's it. Because the grey squirrels, the red ones have all been extinct. They're all in Scotland. And that's where Tufty lives. That's our problem now.
Oh,
really hard.
That was Mark's phone going off, so we'll fade him out for a moment or two while he sorts that out. That's the joy. Someone saying you're on the radio. But I don't think, because when you cross a zebra crossing, you're supposed to wait. You're supposed to sort of put your foot out, if I remember rightly, to signal to the drivers that you want to cross, because there are people also who loiter at zebra crossings, and I've pulled up in the past, and they look at you and just go, shrug and go, well, I'm not going to cross. And I'm thinking, why are you standing there with your foot out then?
There is a thing where we do need to move swiftly on. I mean, with a Green Cross code or whatever code you grew up with. Yeah.
But also in Felixstowe, you've got the shared space scheme, haven't you, in Felixstowe, which brings a new element to it.
Oh, yeah. You go along Hamilton Road. There are 4 sets of traffic lights. 3 of them are pedestrian crossings. The one that has the flashy amber lights, which means if there's no one on the crossing you can go, is at the busiest part, where there are most pedestrians. It's just weird. You think, why make that one that's got more permission, where there's likely to be more pedestrians? We do need some clarity. One rule, and that's it.
Let's talk to Mark, who's probably got something to say on this as well. So, what do you think, Mark? Should we sort of sort out a bit more training for members of the public and drivers when it comes to crossing the road?
That'd be good fun. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. It all went very quiet. I blame all this online meeting stuff, you see, really. But I did catch some of it on the radio. But I remember years ago we sent a load of councillors over to Holland to look at the shared space scheme, which I know you were talking about in
Felixstowe,
in Felixstowe, there, which was very much the sort of big thing at the time, where the pedestrian has the right of way, and the car, if it drives into that area, suddenly realises there's no markings, it's not their territory anymore.
Yeah.
And what the Dutch said was that they said it was fun, really, because there were all these English councillors jumping out into the middle of the road to test this, you see, which was the biggest sort of traffic calming they'd ever seen in their lives, you see. How none of us ever got bowled over, I don't know, really. But it is a psychological trick that if the pedestrian has that right of way, it does make the driver much more cautious about the way that they operate. But I also agree with what Andrew was saying about the plethora of crossings that we have, which are so confusing to people, and it just really, a Belisha Beacon and a Pelican Crossing and all of these, it probably does need to be simplified.
Well, there's one that, if I can join in with this as a grump, and it's one that's been going ever since the university on the waterfront in Ipswich was created.
Yeah.
And if you drive down Bishop's Hill in Ipswich, or head up towards Bishop's Hill around Grimwade Street, you come to a set of traffic lights and a zebra crossing, and they are about 50 yards apart. And, and all it does is lock up the traffic. So you've got 2 means to cross the road within 50 yards of each other. Do away with one of them, for goodness sake, rather than having 2.
No, you can't. You can't, because the zebra crossing is outside my mum's flat.
Ah, okay. We'll leave that one then. Get rid of the
We'll
traffic
leave that
lights.
one. Yeah. Run down the students. That's what I say.
Look, it's been lovely to talk to you both. Thank you very much. Andrew, do you feel a bit better for getting that off your chest?
Oh, yeah. Just be careful out there, people.
Yeah.
We love you.
Yeah.
We love you too. Look, thank you very much, gentlemen. Have a lovely, lovely Christmas. Keep safe
And
and
you,
well.
Mark. Yeah.
And
Bless you, everyone.
we'll get you back in, or on the show, should I say, rather than in the new year. Perhaps it'll be probably a year, I think, before we're able to get back to normality, I think.
Oh, no.
Indeed.
Well, the way the National, I don't want to leave you on a depressing thought, but the National Audit Office said this morning when I was reading that it's probably going to take most of next year to vaccinate the over 50s. And then we've got the under 50s to do, so it's going to take a while.
And the other 50s includes you and me, Mark, doesn't it?
It does,
of course?
yes.
So,
I got my
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Yeah.
got my free flu jab the other day, and grateful I was for it as well. Thank you both very much for joining us, Reverend Mark B, and also the Reverend Canon Andrew Dotchin, Mark in Beccles, and Andrew in Felixstowe.